Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas, and today, Regina Porter joins the show. Regina is an author and playwright, and her newest book, The Rich People Have Gone Away, just came out this month. The book is set during the pandemic lockdown of 2020 and is full of hope, community, and reckoning with the past. It's an intense, propulsive, and very cinematic novel with a ton of emotional chaos set around the disappearance of a white woman. Today, we talk about why she didn't want to write a COVID novel but ended up doing it anyway, what was interesting to her about taking on the missing white woman trope, and how friendships and obligations play into this novel. Remember, the Stacks Book Club pick for August is Master Slave Husband Wife by Il-Yan Wu, which we will discuss on Wednesday, August 28th with Jay Ellis. Quick reminder, everything we talk about on each episode of the show can be found in the link in the show notes. If you love the Stacks and you want inside access to it, head over to patreon.com/the Stacks and join the Stacks Pack. For just $5 a month, you get to be part of a fantastic, amazing, wonderful, top-tier book community. We have a very active Discord where we discuss all things books, food, pop culture, and more. We have a monthly virtual book club meetup where we discuss our book club pick. We do bonus episodes each month, and you get to know that by joining the Stacks Pack, you make it possible for me to make the show every single week. Head to patreon.com/the Stacks and join. A fun perk of the Stacks Pack is getting a shout out on this very podcast. So thank you so much to Karen Venegas, Coffin Muir, Amy Sassenhausen, Janet Tanner, Long Winnie, Natalie, Miriam Cook, and Stephanie Flynn. I do want to say that if you like the show, you want to support the work of the show, but you don't want to be part of a bookish community, you should go check out my newsletter at tracythomas.substack.com, where I write about books and pop culture. I just wrote a whole thing about Olympic events as books. Plus, I'm giving you updates on what's going on here around the Stacks. Head to tracythomas.substack.com to subscribe. Okay, now it's time for my conversation with Regina Porter. All right, everybody, I am so excited. I am joined today by Regina Porter. She is the author of a book that she's a playwright and author of previous books, but this book that just came out this month is called The Rich People Have Gone Away. It is sort of a literary mystery thriller. It sort of defies genre to me, which we'll talk about. But Regina, welcome to the Stacks.
Oh, thank you. It's fabulous to be here.
I'm so excited. Before we even dive in about 30 seconds or so, can you just tell folks about this book?
Well, it's a novel set in New York, and it's about a group of friends, some more family and friends, some more privileged than others, and the fallout that occurs when one of them, a pregnant woman, goes missing against the backdrop of the pandemic. Yeah.
Yes, that is where I want to start. This is, I think, I can't say for sure, but it's the one that comes to mind. This is the most successful, in my opinion, COVID novel that I have ever read. And I feel like we're sort of getting to the beginning of what might be a few years of COVID novels coming. And I wanted to know, why did you want to write a COVID novel?
Well, it's really kind of wild. Initially, I didn't. I was working on another project and another book, and I went for a walk, and it was in the early days of COVID, and the streets were so eerie and quiet, and I went back home, and I could not focus for the life of me on the novel I was working on, and a character came to me, this character, Theo, and he was my in. And again, I struggled with, I didn't want to write a COVID novel. So I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to find an interesting human way into this novel. And I think he was it for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I guess, why didn't you want to write a COVID novel? What were you sort of apprehensive about, perhaps?
It being called a COVID novel. It being called a COVID novel. I mean, We're still trying to really understand COVID after all of these years, right? I wanted to write
Yeah.
a novel about people being people because we didn't stop being people. There were just certain challenges that we
Right.
experienced, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And ways of living and shifts in our lifestyle. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're a playwright on top of being a novelist. Did you ever consider that this story might be a play?
No, no, because it came to me visually. Again, walking around Park Slope, the quiet neighborhood, the windows and doors. It was so visual. It reminded me of something. There's a great horror film. I want to say 28 Days Later. Do you
Oh
know?
yeah.
And I had that sort of feeling with what's going on behind doors? Like, where are all the
Mm.
people? I was out running an errand with my dog, and there were just very few people out, Yeah.
So for your plays, if your novels come to you visually, how do your plays come to you?
Listening to the world and hearing the world, hearing something someone says and sort of running with that. But for
Mm.
fiction, it tends to be visual. A character does something and it stays with me.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Um, So this what I really found fascinating about this book, it's set in New York, both in the city and upstate. Though we also get to go a few other places with some of the characters, but mostly, it's a New York City or New York novel. And you sort of frame this book among these two tragedies, COVID and also 9/11. And those are both huge, events in the book and in the characters' lives. And I was wondering how you were thinking about those two things being connected.
Well, some of the same fears and phobias came up, I think, again, say with anti-Asian bias, right? That kind of spiked during COVID. And then 9/11 and post 9/11. So we were sort of psychologically and emotionally in similar places with uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I
That's
wanted to
so interesting.
explore that, and how humans respond in a crisis, yeah.
I also feel like one of the things that I was thinking, it had not occurred to me until I read the book, was also how, like, in these moments of fear and unknown and terror and all of this stuff, not just terror like a terrorist attack, but just the terror of COVID or like the
Mhm.
terror of
Yes,
something's happening around you to your community, that it oftentimes is a time for people to sort of like reevaluate their priorities and reset and like think about, what if this happened to me? Am I
mhm,
living the life that I want to live? Am I the person that I want to be? Am I, doing the things that I should be doing? And I feel like you really represent those kind of questions, those like
yes,
existential questions
yes.
so well in the book. And I could so relate to the characters who I think they all sort of question, like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life? Was that something that you were like really thinking about, like with each of the
Yes,
characters?
I started with Theo, and I wanted him to really sort of think about his privilege. He's not someone inclined to be guilty, and I don't think guilt really works so well in fiction. I think it kind of helps to have a character, I won't say who's beyond guilt, but who sort of puts a little bit of distance between himself and the world and his feelings. But
Mm,
COVID starts making him analyze his identity, what he's been told, and what's happening in real time in the world around him. And you also have someone like Ruby who runs with her partner Katsumi, and they run a high-end restaurant, Afro Asian fusion in the Bowery, and she sees the growing homeless community, and she feels a sense of responsibility, and she starts thinking of even more about food and food sustainability. And so, and we're having these conversations now, right? And even
mhm.
when we talk about lifestyle choices, there are some pluses that have come out of COVID where people have decided, I want to spend more time with my family. I'm not going to work 5 days a week in the office. It's
Hmm.
been amazing to me that people are holding their ground and everything in this manner. And so, from a tragedy or tragic period, there have been some blessings too that I think we'll see more and more as time goes by, as well as humor. And I did want to inflect humor in the novel. Yes.
That was the next thing I was going to say to you. I was going to say, I feel like this is a book when you hear about it, it's like, this is a serious book. And it is a serious book. There's serious things going on. But like, you really found ways to find the humor. And I think like, I could tell that you were a playwright in reading this book because so many of the scenes I could see on the stage, right? Like,
Yes.
there's like this dinner, and I was
Yeah.
like, this is August Osage County. Like, this is a play, right? Like, this
Yeah.
is Act Two of August Osage County. Or like, there's another scene where Theo, this character that came to you first, and his wife Darla are on a hike,
Hmm.
and I could see that scene. That scene I saw more as like a movie though, because I needed a little more like,
Yes.
you know, they're on a hike. A hike is hard to do on the stage, but in all of these scenes and in all of these characters, there is this sort of underlying humor, and humor is such a huge part of my life, and I can't imagine my life without it. But I'm wondering if that's hard to bring to the page to make it feel authentic, authentically funny or humorous or whatever, without it feeling like jokey.
When I teach my students, I tell them that you can pull off anything if you know your character really well and the humor is coming from the character. So for me, the humor works because I don't just give a character a line. The character gives me the line, but I
Mm,
also understand every culture has and uses humor, and particularly in cultures where there has been subversity, humor can be wonderful and subversive. It is a survival tool. So
mm-hmm,
sometimes during challenging times, and COVID was a challenging time, uh, the humor is what we fall back on, and it's
mm-hmm.
important to thread that into the narrative in a compassionate, sometimes a shocking way, because that's how humor sometimes is, right? It shocks us,
Yeah,
it makes us a
yeah,
little uncomfortable, but it also brings us together. Do you know?
right.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm wondering, it's the book comes out, it came out this month. It's 2024. It's been, 4 years sort of since COVID starts. How has the book changed from maybe what you set out to write when Theo first came to you, especially since our collective relationships to COVID have changed so much, probably from when you
Mm.
started writing this book?
It's changed in the way that I described in terms of uh, how I see our lifestyles now and how we balance time. As I said, people not resisting going back to a certain kind of day to day grind in their lives. That's a tough question because again, I think it's still evolving. When we
Hmm.
meet when we meet Theo and Ruby and Darla, it's the early stages still. And it seemed like for some people the world was going to end. We didn't really know
Yeah.
what was going to happen. So that I think the book has an urgency to it in a way.
Hmm.
Do you know? And
Hmm.
now we can sort of step back. I hope this is one of the pleasures of reading the book. I tried to construct it this way. As the reader, you know more than the characters do. You
Right.
know that there's going to be a time when we understand the virus is not passed long during on surfaces. There's
Right.
certain things that we know that I think can give us an intimacy when we engage with the characters and make us root for some of the things they do and shake our heads at some of the other things they do that are not so great. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, in addition to the book being a COVID novel, which we've talked about, it is, like I said before, sort of genre. You can't define it. I don't feel like you could define it. I feel like I've seen some places people say it's a thriller, and I'm like, well, is it a thriller? Like, I don't know, but I don't feel like it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it's doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way of saying it. And one of the things that it does really well is it alternates through perspectives. We have all these different characters who are related to, in some way, to this central couple, Darla and Theo. Some of the characters we get in third person, some of them we get in first person. And I'm wondering how those decisions come to you. How did you decide that we would get these moments, with Ruby where it's first person versus, or that like we would be closest to her? Or how are you thinking about all of that part, like actually putting the story down on paper? Did it go through phases? Was it ever told just from one person's perspective, or did you always know it would be kind of multi-perspective?
Someone asked me about the connections and because I think that's something I do in my writing, and but I think I've experienced this in my life where people have these strange connections, or people come into my life, or I've heard of other people's lives that they've lost suddenly, or and they return again. And it's just a very New York thing, it feels like to me. But in terms of structure, Darla and Theo live in a building in Park Slope, and a young man moves into that building called the Teenager in a Cardi B t-shirt. And he has a real name, but that's how Theo kind of sees him. And he sort of is a connection to other characters too. And so I don't know. I don't have a clear answer for it. I think the world just kind of builds and builds, because that's how I experience New York and encountering people.
Is the picture behind you on the wall the picture of the boy in the Cardi B t-shirt from the book?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
And
I thought
it's
so. I had to go back and check the book as you were
yes,
just
it is.
talking.
And speaking of 6 degrees of separation, my hairstylist, her son is extremely talented, and she was doing my hair, twisting my hair one afternoon, and I said, "Oh, that's just fabulous." Her daughter is really talented too, and she said, that my son did that." And I said, I think I'm going to. I have this idea, because I couldn't use an image of Cardi B, obviously.
Right.
So I commissioned that from him. He's a very good artist. Yes,
Oh,
I wanted
wow.
to support both of them. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the art in the book. There's
Hmm.
maybe like 15 pictures
Yes.
throughout the
Hmm.
book that
Yes.
show up. Why did you want to include those? What does that do? Like, what are you doing with those, or hoping to do with those?
Art and white spaces give us an opportunity to pause and think about what we've read. They also allow us to look at a scene in our chapter in a new light or a new way. Sometimes, for me, that picture, for example, I don't want to ruin it for the readers, but is about how the young man is seen, do you know,
Mm,
and his
hmm.
back, like how we are often seen. So, since we're talking about identity, I think the pictures also explore identity, from Darla's identity,
Hmm.
in later chapters, and Ruby's, and they help ground me as a writer in the world. Sometimes I'll write and I'll just know intuitively, oh, an image needs to be here. And I'm not
Mm,
clear about the image, and I'll keep writing. And then by the time I've reached the end, I can look at the whole novel and figure out which images I need or want, and begin searching for them. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so interesting. What about the chapter titles themselves? Um, you have chapter titles that have actual words. It's not just like one or
Yeah.
whatever.
Hmm.
So how do you think about naming those?
Well, the teenager in the Cardi B t-shirt, which is the second chapter in the novel, uh, I came up with because Theo sees the young man, not as a young man, but as a teenager in a Cardi B
Hmm.
t-shirt. And then usually there's some element in the chapter that sparks a title. And I think, and that's a great question, by the way, those titles, because I don't always write in a linear fashion, those titles actually help propel me forward in a way and
Hmm.
open a door for perhaps how the following chapter will be plotted or what I might need to come back to, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
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 You don't write in a linear way. How do you write? What does that mean? What does your process look like?
I don't always know where the story is going. I follow the characters, and then once I have a draft, I will go back and give the novel a shape or structure. Some of the structure is in place, but I might say, for example, with Ruby's scene with her mom who owns a bookstore, that was
Hmm.
earlier, and it structurally it wasn't right. I knew it was meant to be there because that also
Hmm.
informs Ruby. So it's just how the relationships in the novel unfold might move around. So it's not always A to B. Sometimes it's A to C. And then I go back to B and I rediscover a
Mm.
character from a different perspective, you know?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Valentine's Day is upon us, and I've got love on the brain. Love for books, duh, of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind the scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to tracythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the Stacks. Okay, we're back. I want to ask you a little bit about the characters' names. You've got
Hmm.
a lot of characters. They
Yeah.
all have names. How do you name your characters? Where do those come from for you?
Well, some of them, like Ruby, comes from the novel I was working on when I stopped. There was a character in The Travelers named Reuben Applewood, and he died suddenly, and he was one of my favorite characters. And I was frustrated that he had to die, and so I thought, oh, Ruby, I'm going to name, maybe Ruby is his daughter, but it didn't.
Oh.
She ended up in The Rich People Have Gone Away. So that's how I initially came up with Ruby's name. Darla, I love horror films. I love a television show called Supernatural, and I'm going to say one of my all-time favorite characters on Supernatural was a character named Darla. So I named Darla after Darla because she was one of my favorite characters. Very different character, but yeah. And
I thought you were going to say Darla from Little Rascals.
no, 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 no.
Amazing. What part of this book was easy for you to write, and what part of it was the hardest for you to write?
I have to say, even though I come from a playwriting background, the dinner scene was challenging, just building and building and building. And writing Theo was challenging at times because he's not an easy character, but I have to someone once said your heroes are only as good as your villains, and sometimes I guess he's an anti-hero in some ways. So I really struggled with him, just trying to understand his way of thinking. Darla too, Ruby at times just getting, because she's in Japan, just I have been to Japan. I have family members in Japan, friends, but I wasn't able to go during COVID, and that was really a little frustrating for me. So just trying to interview people and get certain things right. And the hardest part is faith that or was faith that it would come together, because I didn't see the ending. I but I knew I was writing toward it, and then when it came, yeah.
I have a question about Theo. So the book, this is not a spoiler because this is how the book opens, but the book opens with Theo and his sexual proclivities, and we find out what Theo's kink is.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know why you wanted to start this book with that.
Because that's what came to me. Because I see this as a book about sort of a psychological thriller about what happens when our lifestyles are forced to change. And that happened for a lot of people. And this was a very heightened way of his lifestyle changing, because people weren't going out much, right? And so he's forced. And so something that is just part of his being. I think of the song too. When I get that feeling, I need sexual healing, sexual healing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's how he approaches sex, but his inclinations are kind of hampered by the pandemic. I think how he likes to have sex influences how he functions in the world. And I think he's a highly functioning person. And so I thought, ooh, that's interesting, because I can go with that. That's an interesting, and I also think the human way of looking at the pandemic, and also an entertaining way. Yeah.
Yeah. This is not a spoiler because it's on all the blurb copy. So I'm going to just say if you can find this information easily, I don't consider it a spoiler. But Darla, who's Theo's wife, goes missing in the book. And she's white. She's blonde. And as I'm sure people who are alive currently and have ever thought about missing white women, it becomes a thing, a cultural thing. It blows up. What was interesting to you about this whole what missing white woman trope? Why did you want to explore this? What did you feel like you wanted to think about or add to in this conversation?
I wanted to explore a friendship, because her best friend is Ruby, and Ruby is seeing this blow up, and Ruby's getting to see how the search for Darla plays out. And she's a privileged Black woman, but it makes her think about her privilege. Yes, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that. So it was also an opportunity to explore friendships. And when someone stops and goes, oh my God, do we have the same privilege? What is privilege? I'm privileged. And how would this play out? Oh, add this too. Last night I was listening to NPR, and they said that a study since COVID has shown that African American women, I may have the number wrong, are 30% more likely to have something go wrong during labor. So this whole idea of value in life, and lives, even before a child is born. And so I think these issues are there, but they're playing out through relationships, human relationships, and characters. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
I want to shift to your writing process a little bit. Something that I always love to ask writers is, how do you write? How many hours a day? How often? Do you listen to music or no? Are you in your home? Are you out in the world? Are there snacks and beverages? Are there rituals? And I guess for you, does it differ when you're writing a novel, your process, versus when you're writing a play?
It does differ. I think when I'm writing a play, I need to be out in the world more, listening to people, not necessarily listening to their dialogue, but no two people speak the same way. So the rhythm is very important, and I really pay attention to uh, the rhythm of speech. For novels, one thing is consistent. I need coffee. Coffee is part of my
And how do you take your coffee?
I take my coffee with milk, no sugar. I used to take it with sugar, but the past few years, gosh, it's been like 5, 6 years now. I don't have sugar in my coffee, and I usually walk my dog. I'm a morning person. I had to be. I think naturally, I'm wee hours of the morning writer, but that shifted when I became a parent, and I started getting up early in the morning to write, as opposed to 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. being my original
Oh my
group,
goodness.
So I had to really, yeah, I had to really reframe my writing patterns. I don't write every day. I know, for example, say now a new novel is forming, even as we're talking. So I'm watching a lot of movies. Movies give me a lot of joy. I don't think it's a coincidence that people say, well, sometimes the novel reads like a film. It's because I watch a lot of films. It's what I do to unwind. Um, but I also think it informs my work. Yeah.
It's so funny. This one definitely reads like a film to me. I for sure was imagining some of the characters, and I was like, who could play this person? This is
Yeah.
Were there any specific movies you were watching while you wrote The Rich People Have Gone Away?
Oh my gosh, probably older movies like The Third Man. I'm not a literary snob, and I think that's a blessing as a writer. So I can say that I have watched Game of Thrones so many times, uh,
Mm,
but I think if you think about the power plays, the characters, the flaws, these things
mm.
are fascinating, and of course the dragon. So yeah, yeah.
You didn't give us any dragons in your book. Don't tease the
No,
people. If you guys read this
no,
book, you're getting no
no,
dragons.
no. Maybe another time you'll get dragons. Not in this book.
I'm not a big dragon person, so I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
I am not a Game of Thrones person, but everyone else in my family is. So I've seen a little bit, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
But I love a family drama, whether it's fantasy or reality. I love family drama,
Yeah.
which I think is what I really really enjoyed about your book. I just love those dynamics of people who are beholden to each other for certain reasons, but also don't necessarily want to be or
Yes.
don't. I just love that. What's a word you can never spell correctly on the first try?
Oh my gosh. Maybe doppelganger. I don't
Ugh, that's a
know.
hard one. There's so many letters.
There's so, yeah.
Are you a
Mississippi always gives me
Oh,
trouble. Now, Mississippi
I have
always,
to sing the
I have to
song.
pause, yeah, and go, wait.
I have to do like I
Yeah,
can't just spell it. I have to do like
yeah,
MISSISSIPPI.
yeah.
Are you generally a good speller?
I'm a decent speller. I'm a decent
Okay.
speller. My vision isn't great, so sometimes there are typos because of that. Yeah, but yeah,
I see. I
yeah, yeah.
see. I'm a terrible speller. But I usually when people can't think of a word like right away, it's because they're like kind of good spellers. That's my analysis, my
Yeah.
unofficial analysis. For people who like the book, The Rich People Have Gone Away, what are some other books you would recommend that are maybe in conversation with what you've created?
Well, I love The Talented Mr. Ripley. I've said that before. I love any book by Walter Mosley. Chester Himes, was it Cotton Comes to Harlem? Oh my God. I'm drawing a blank, but I have to tell you, um, it's a different genre, but I love Octavia Butler's, I'm forgetting the title, The Talents.
Parable of the Talents?
Yes, there was one point when I was reading the book, and I just remember sobbing in just sobbing. And I think we know this now about her, but she was ahead of her time in how she wrote about relationships, also against the backdrop of pandemics.
Yeah.
So, and in the world changing and in different lifestyles, right? I think she was
Yeah.
really ahead of her time. I don't like genre labeling because someone might miss out on Octavia
Mhm.
Butler because she's a sci-fi writer, but I think she
Yeah.
was so much more and she was ahead of her time. So that's why it takes me a minute. And when I say I'm not a snob or I've learned not to be a snob, obviously, Baldwin, Another Country, big, messy novel,
Yeah.
but I love it. Giovanni's Room. I love Robert Jones, The Prophet. I love,
Mm.
there's just so many. It's a hard,
Yeah.
and Percival Everett, who's
Of
written something
course.
like 30 books, right? And now's now's having his
Prolific.
moment. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and
I just every time I think about how many books he's written, I'm just like, wait, what are you doing? I mean, I know there's other authors who write even more than
mhm.
him, but it is truly that level of output is impressive just in and of itself. But he's also so talented that I'm just like, wait, you're not just putting out books, you're putting out like good books every year for 40 years, basically.
And I should I my favorite Toni Morrison book is Song of Solomon.
Mm,
As I've grown older, I love Sula even more. It may I surpass it in some way, but I think it's still Song of Solomon. But it's the friendship and the relationship between those two women in Sula, and I tried to have some of that in The Rich People Have Gone Away, with how friendships become fractured, but also, I should give a nod too to Zora Neale Hurston because she always makes me pause to make sure I have a healthy relationship between an African American man and woman in the novel. I think there's some
mm,
beautiful things in The Rich People Have Gone Away. And one of my favorite is Irvin's relationship with his wife Nadine, and a conversation he actually has with his son, who does not understand everything about the relationship. I think there's a point when the son says, the teenager in the Cardi B t-shirt,
Mm-hmm.
says, well, Dad, do you love your blackness more, or do you love Mom more? And he said, I don't see these two things as competing. I love both of these things. Do you know the
Mm-hmm.
father having that conversation with the mom? There's some other scenes when someone becomes sick and bringing
Mm-hmm.
over food. These
Mm-hmm.
I loved writing these scenes, and I write these scenes because of Janie and their eyes were watching God, and Zora Neale
Mm.
Hurston, and her love for Southern folk. Do
Yeah.
you know? And how that Southernness travels. Do you know? Even in
Yeah.
what is I'm kind of fascinated by what is it? Not Like Us, right? And I
Mm.
see the Southern progression in that song, in that video, and it fascinates me. Do you know? If that makes
Say
sense.
more. I want you to say more about that.
Well, I can't, because I may be thinking about writing something, but I sit and I
Okay.
go, oh my God, he's managed to do so many young Black people have left the church. I don't go to church regularly, but Lamar got so many people together, and that
Yeah.
in the scene, the black and white scene in the house, like, right, it feels Southern. It might not be. There's
Yeah.
something in the Great Migration in that video that
Mm-hmm.
blows
Mm-hmm.
my mind. It blows my
Yeah.
mind. And there's something in the Great Migration in the way Irvin and Nadine,
Mm-hmm.
they've
Mm-hmm.
carried that with them, and also a responsibility uh, to help others. Do you? And they're
Yeah.
flawed, yes, but that's also Zora Neale Hurston. That's her gift to all of us. Do you know?
I
If that
love
makes
that so
sense.
much. Yeah. Speaking of Nadine, she was the character that I think I related to the most because she was a dancer and I was a dancer,
Oh, I'm
and
glad to hear
she
you say
yeah.
that. I get
Yeah.
worried that she's going to be overlooked. She's one of my personal favorite characters too,
Yeah.
if I
And
have
she
to
went to
say.
NYU and
Yeah,
I went to NYU, and
yeah,
she was there at the same time as me ish. And like, I think that was one of the other things I really enjoyed is like for anyone who spent any time in New York, any real time, not just like, a weekend, but any who's lived there, even, for a summer or whatever, I just felt like you get New York so right in this book. And I know a lot of books are set in New York. I know a lot of people have lived in New York, but I don't always feel like I see a New York that I know
yeah,
in New York novels. And I felt like in this book, I not only did I know the city, even though I haven't lived there in years, I knew the city that you were writing about. And I also felt like I knew those people in the city. And I
yeah.
think sometimes the city can feel separate from the characters in a lot of like New York novels. And I felt like you really nailed the New York City ness of it all.
Yes. Oh, thank you for saying that. It means a lot to me, and I don't always know what's going to happen beat for beat for beat. In retrospect, once it's laid out, it makes sense, because we can almost be led to believe that Nadine and Irvin and the teenager in the Cardi B t-shirt are invisible. Do you know? But
Mm-hmm.
they aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So the framing, whose story takes is the most important, that's a tricky thing, right? It's
Yeah,
yeah,
it really is.
it's
Okay,
tricky.
well, this is my last question for you. If you could have one person, dead or alive, read this book, who would you want it to be?
James Baldwin. James
Okay.
Baldwin. I was going to say Toni Morrison, or Zora Neale Hurston, but I think James Baldwin, because he was born here, but he also, his
Mm,
people were from the South. So, but he was
yeah.
born here, and I wonder what he would think of this New York City. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
love that so much. Well, everyone, Please go get your copy of The Rich People Have Gone Away. It is out now. You can get it wherever you get your books. I read it off the page. I didn't listen to the audiobook, but I did see you have multiple narrators. So that's kind of cool. So you can also check out the audiobook, people. Regina, thank you so much for being here. This was lovely.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm glad it worked out. Yeah.
And everyone else, we will see you in the stacks. All right, y'all, that does it for us today. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you to Regina for being my guest. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to Vanessa DeJesus for helping to make this conversation possible. Remember, our book club pick for August is Master Slave Husband Wife by Ilyan Wu. We will be discussing the book on Wednesday, August 28th with Jay Ellis. If you love the show and you want inside access to it, head to patreon.com/The Stacks to join the Stacks Pack. And you can check out my Substack newsletter at tracythomas.substack.com. Make sure you're subscribed to The Stacks wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're listening through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, be sure to leave us a rating and a review. For more from The Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok, and at The Stacks Pod _ on Twitter. And you can check out our website, thestackspodcast.com. This episode of The Stacks was edited by Christian Duenas with production assistance from Lauren Tyree. Our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Tegirigis. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.